rudest thing anybody's said to me in weeks.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, man.
You ready?
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
It's this.
Welcome to Books We Never Read.
Except for those we have.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Jason.
And this is episode 64
Ooh.
of Books We Never Read. We'll be discussing The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, or Matthew Haig. Matt Haig? I think it's Matt Haig. We'll be talking about just the whole thing, the second half of the book, but also the whole thing. So, if you haven't read the book yet, please back up out of here, because there's spoilers. We will talk about it all. Please, if you're visiting with us live, participate in the live chat. You know, talk about what you thought about the book and everything. If you're catching this on the replay, please participate in the comment section below. We love going back and revisiting the books that we've read. And this one will be a great one to revisit. This was just a good, solid perspective book, you know? It was just good. So we're happy to, you know, hear what you thought about it. You can also catch us on YouTube Music as a podcast. And we take the discussion off of YouTube onto Goodreads when I remember to update Goodreads, which I've been good about until this book. I'll get us caught up. Sorry about that, everybody. So, anyway, what's next? Am I forgetting something?
We are also putting out our syllabus today for the next book, which is The Mountain in the Sea. I don't know the author's name.
Oh.
It doesn't matter. We'll get there. But it's Mountain in the Sea. You'll see
Ray.
Oh. Sounds right.
Ray.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Good morning, Peggy and Allison and Shelby. Good morning. A solid 3 from 1 to 10, says Peggy.
I really enjoyed it. So number one, this is a book that like I want to recommend to people, but then if you recommend to people, they're like, should I be worried about myself? Right?
Because like recommendations you make are based on like your perceptions of the person?
I mean, maybe, but like, you know, I'd be like, hey, I think you should read this. Or, you know.
You don't, but don't say it like that.
Yeah, you're right.
You just say like, look, I read this book and it just really gave me some stuff to think about.
Yeah.
You're not projecting it onto the other person. Yeah. It's about yourself.
I really enjoyed it for like the psychology and the philosophy of it and everything. I also like for as far as the book goes, that mostly describes normal everyday situations, right? Like we've recently been reading like Dragon Riders and stuff, and then she was like, I got up and made toast, and I'm like, but I'm here for that. It was kind of nice to go back to the mundane in a magical way. You know, that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And that is something that was kind of great about this book, is reminding us that there is beauty in the mundane.
Yeah.
Like, there is some beauty in boredom, you know? Like...
Yeah. But, I don't know, like, maybe I'm in the right... I definitely think that we happened to pick this book at a time when I was in the right mindset for it. I don't think there was any time where I wasn't going to like this book. But, you know, but I've been thinking about these sorts of themes or whatever. I don't really, like, I'm a almost always happy person. Like I'm happy a lot. And so like, I don't really struggle with this. I'm definitely interested in a sequel to this that's like about anxiety, where she goes to all these different lives and finds out that nobody was thinking about her and it was fine.
Yeah. Right.
I think that'd be great.
Right. Right.
But it brings up good things. I think there's so many people who just wish for a different life. And really they wish for like a different self, but they don't.
Right.
You know.
Right.
They don't take the steps to do it.
This was very It's a Wonderful Life. In all directions, right? Like thinking that the life that you are handling is not the life that you would have chosen for yourself. And then realizing, you know, all the big and small changes and how it affects yourself and other people, realizing how to adjust your perspective a little bit, makes you come back to your own life and realize you have a lot of potential to work with and you're capable of great things. And I mean, really, and we talked about this last week, it is all about perspective.
Yeah.
And one of the quotes, I wrote down a lot of quotes from the book. There was just a lot of good little zingers in there, you know. But the prison wasn't the place, but the perspective. That is the prison, right? That's not to say that, it's not to dismiss bad things that you go through.
Sure.
Or troubles that you're having. Like, hard times are hard times, and we all have those.
Yeah.
And so that's not to say everything's great, you know, like, don't, you know, just ignore the problems, but, you know, you're in control.
Yeah.
And there are things that you can control.
Yeah.
And that is yourself.
I guess this book just kind of like speaks to my own like personal philosophy anyway, but like in Stoicism, there's this concept that, so like Epictetus was one of the great like early Stoic philosophers, and he was literally a slave. And he would write that like even if they enslave your body, they cannot enslave your mind unless you allow someone to.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of that, I think, in this book, where she had allowed her mind to be enslaved. She had allowed her emotions to be enslaved. She had become, you know, at some point she realized that she'd been picking all these lives based on other people's dreams.
Yeah.
And not really hers, you know? And then she did a bunch of lives after that, right? Like it didn't quite help her, that realization.
I think it did.
Well, I think it's after that we get the chapters where it's just like, and then she was this and this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And so that like, it didn't like speed up perhaps there was a lot still after that we didn't really experience in full. But she had allowed herself to become what other people want, and that is the perspective thing that you're talking about.
Yeah. I had written a note about, I like the way the author styled the book, and that we realize things as the narrator realized things, as Nora realized things. And part of that was, oh my gosh, I'm living other people's dreams.
Yeah.
And then we see her actually live kind of a perfect dream kind of life with Ash and with her child and all that. And then seeing what is to be lived is when she goes through, you know, like going all of those just hundreds and hundreds of other lives that she could have lived. And then coming to the realization after seeing all the potential, well, and then being like an interloper into that world, like that wasn't really her life and she hadn't really deserved to get there, realizing that she had that potential already, you know, to be lived in her own life. I like the way the author styled that. I understood the lessons to be taught as they were being developed out. And so it was very, like, I was with Nora, you know.
Yeah.
I was on her level.
Yeah.
And that was, he was very crafty at that.
I think everybody, you know, it's hard sometimes, I think, to get people to think about this perspective. And I think that's part of the value of this book, is it's hard to get people to be like, well, imagine, like, I know you don't really like what you've got, but imagine how it could be worse. And they're like, no, right? Just no. Like, if you're having that, and if you're trying to have that conversation, like, philosophically with someone, like a little bit like what we talked about last week, if you give them these thought experiments, or if Epictetus is just like, I mean, I don't know, man, you're letting people enslave your mind and your spirit. You just be like, no, because you're angry and you're upset and you aren't happy. But I think that kind of the beauty of this book is that it's sneaky, and it teaches the lesson in a really fun way. You know, it's like kids' cartoons that teach math. Learning math sucks, but like I'll watch these number blocks all day. Right? So. And this is what it is for an adult, like on an emotional level. Yeah, so. I also think that what's kind of interesting about it is I actually really liked the ending chapters where she discovers that like the old man next door was really only like still functioning because
she was looking out for
she was looking out for him, and like the little boy was gonna be like a gangster or something, right? Like, I don't know, whatever. Like, all that kind of stuff I thought was interesting because we are, I don't know, and this may not be for everybody, but like, I feel like when we think about history and you're taught about great people, you know, and you're like, this guy did this thing, and then this guy did this thing, and realistically, all that guy did was like sit in a boardroom somewhere and make a decision, and then everybody else went and did the thing. That's what happens, but his name gets to go on it, you know. You know, the president of the United States decided we're going to have this policy, and that's a big deal because somebody had to decide it. But then realistically, some secretary that we don't know the name of is the one who went and got the thing happening and figured out what they were going to do, and like, you know, and it's these quiet background people that really make the world turn, and I kind of feel that way about Nora, you know.
Yeah.
I used to want to be famous. I used to like want to be important, and I don't care. I just don't care anymore. It's exhausting. No, it sounds terrible. And like, how would the world be different? You know, if you were off doing something else, and you weren't doing the thing you're doing now, little butterfly effect situation.
Yeah. Peggy points out that in a previous book you said, we aren't anyone until we reflect off another person. She said that's this. She only looked in a mirror.
Yeah, I probably was talking about how, like, you can't even be, like, aware of a self. Like, you have to have somebody else to be sort of aware of yourself. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. This was the best version of purgatory that Shelby has heard of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and, like, so Hugo is just, like...
Oh, man. That was really cool.
So what's weird about Hugo is, like, this is his best life. Bopping around between lives.
Yeah,
right?
so is he in a coma or something?
It wasn't clear. You know, at one point they say, you know, in another life I'm having an aneurysm in Paris. And that was like the first other life he ever mentions. But he doesn't actually say that that's his root life.
That's his root life?
Yeah, we don't know. And so I was thinking about that this morning. You know, so Hugo has met all these people. And all these people that he has met must be going through this experience on or about the same day as he and Nora. So Nora pops into this Arctic life, and he's already been there for like 4 or 5 days. So his near-death experience or whatever is 4 or 5 days old. So he's like a little ahead of her in time. Anyway, the point being is, like, there are some of these sliders that she will never meet because they're 10,000 years ago or in the future or whatever. And that's kind of interesting. I'll be honest, I didn't really care about the whole explanation about quantum mechanics and all that. I didn't care. Like, I didn't need it.
Yeah.
In 7.5 Deaths, you kind of get a glimpse behind the veil.
Yeah.
And then they don't explain it. They're like, this is why, and you're like, what? Don't worry about it. And I like that.
Yeah.
I just don't feel it's necessary.
I thought it was cute though that, like, she worked at a music shop called String Theory, and then the book's about parallel universes and string theory.
That's fine.
I mean, I just thought it was a cute, like,
I think the
overlay.
hints are fine, and it's not even really the explanation that bothers me. It's the explanation with the addition of what seems to be like a conscious other, you know, of the librarian.
Oh, I just assumed that was Nora.
It is,
You know.
but she acts very independently, and in ways that, like, Nora really wouldn't. I don't know. That was really the aspect that kind of that I didn't really care for.
Maybe it's God.
Could be. Or like aliens or something, right? Well, that's the ending I'm here for, right? Finding out that, like, this is all a simulation anyway.
And I would have been okay also if she didn't return to her life and just died. Yeah, like,
Yeah, me too.
I also would have been okay with that ending,
Yeah.
but I think that this was the more socially responsible ending.
Yeah, this is the ending that I think had to happen. I'm on board, you know.
Yeah. I think that there are people who need to read this ending.
Yeah, I mean,
know.
like, could you imagine if you were like in need and you read this book and then they're like, "There's no place for me," so I went and died.
Well, and I don't even mean it in like there's no place for me, but I have seen all the possibilities. I now realize my regrets were just imaginary.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm at peace with
Yeah.
how I've lived my life.
But
I don't know.
I imagine there's some blowback on that ending.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Peggy found it kind of funny that in all the lives where Ravi showed up, except one, he was resentful that he wasn't important. Yeah, poor Ravi. Yeah, he should go to the Midnight Library and get the famous life. He'd have to make his own band, says Peggy. Yeah, they have a whole thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the chess was killing me. I was like, this is written for Jason Johnson.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I enjoyed the chess. That was funny. Excuse me. But yeah, all told, I think it was well written. Like I'm impressed with the idea. I guess I think Matt Haig did a really good job of doing the book. The lives that we saw, I think, were like all interesting enough and different enough, even though there was like so much similarity there.
Mm-hmm.
It was cool.
Yeah. I liked it. One of the quotes I write down: "Regret makes us shrivel and wither and feel like our own and other people's worst enemy."
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And I also liked, we don't have to have tried every variety of grape from every vineyard to know the pleasure of wine. That's another good one to keep in mind. Like, when you feel like you're missing out or you haven't experienced the things, you don't have to do every version of everything to know what that's like.
Well, these are, this is, this kind of idea of, I think last week we were talking about like suffering and stuff like that. And this idea that like you have missed out on something is self-imposed suffering.
Yeah.
Like that is an idea that you have in your head, and you could just not have that idea. You could just, and I'm not saying it would be easy, but you could work on expunging that idea from your mind, and you would just be better. It's all these possibilities that we imagine, and the lack of them in our life. We feel lost for things we've never had, and that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Another point that was made up in the book that I really liked is, there is no version of your life where you can live without disappointing other people.
Right.
And your death would also disappoint other people. I mean, there's just, all you can do is live and do your best. Try to find joy in the life that you're living, or create joy in the life that you're living. Challenge yourself. Like there was a life where she was like, this is perfect, but it's like boring. And there's nothing to struggle over. Like you need to find challenges for yourself. And
right. Well, so that's interesting because, the life where she decided she really wanted to live was where she was being attacked by a bear. And, that's when she was like, oh, I don't want to die.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe not deciding to live, but definitely deciding to not die. And, I think about war and other like high adrenaline jobs that people have, and they feel alive, like they feel, and like they'll say like I miss it sometimes, and part of that is like the adrenaline and that kind of like self-imposed like action addiction, I guess. But some of it too is that like a lot of regular lives are boring, and we are literally not suited for that. We want to like
right.
the human mind wants to expand and wants to get more and wants to thrive, because you never know in what case there will be less. And so we struggle when things stay the same for too long, and we tend to cause trouble for ourselves by going out looking for more. But.
Yeah, let's see. I wanted to catch up on the chat real quick. Shelby says, it definitely made me reflect on what my turning point decisions could have been. When she was going through real quick, like all the different possible versions of life, just hitting them all. That part was really fun for me because I do kind of enjoy that. Like, what if I would have done this thing? Or what if I would have done that thing? Or what would have happened if I would have done this instead? Like, to me, that is a fun thought experiment. But that's also because I don't regret the things that I haven't done. You know, so, but anyways.
I really enjoyed that chapter because I like the fast-paced. I like anything that's kind of like fast-paced like that in literature for whatever reason.
It just is a good shift.
Yeah. And there was one life where she only ate toast.
Yeah. Get me out of there.
Okay.
But I think it's fun to think, like Shelby said, what were some of those turning point decisions? What would some of the things definitely be in your library? And there were a few situations where I was like, oh, That would have been one.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's kind of fun.
Well, like how about how we met?
Yeah.
There was no business in that like happening.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't come, and you almost didn't,
Right, because I didn't want
we'd
to.
have never met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hang out with my dog.
I don't blame you.
I didn't want to leave the house.
Me neither.
But I'm glad I did.
I know.
Okay. Peggy says FOMO ends up in the regret book, but we really don't regret any of that stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I thought that was cool too, how the book of regrets got slimmer and slimmer, because most of our regrets are just perceived.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they aren't really.
Yeah.
At the same time, if we constantly worry that we're disappointing people, we forget that we are a priority and main character in our own story. And that is something that comes up a lot in book club, is we're supposed to be the main character.
You should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Care about making yourself happy. Be selfish.
A little.
Plenty. And Shelby says she didn't ever get to a point of regret when she thought about those decisions. It was more of a, who knows what that would have changed. Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing too. I was like, that I would have been a different person now.
See, I don't even think I feel like that. I feel like when I think about all the other decisions I could have made, I feel like I dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so I this is dumb and like semi unrelated, but I believe luck, whatever that means, exists on a bell curve, and most people are averagely lucky, and then there are some people who are supremely unlucky, and part of that is because they have made that for themselves, right? They build situations to be unlucky, and then there are people who are supremely lucky, and that might be because through some own action of their own actions or through true luck, whatever that means. And I think I'm one of those people. I am very lucky. And I think about all the other unlucky things that could have happened to me. I'm like, nah, I'm good. I think about all the other possible lives. I'm like, I don't want it.
Well, not to bring up Machiavelli twice in 1 week, but
It's true.
in The Prince, he talks about how, luck goes a long way, but it runs out. And so you've got to have skill to maintain the position you've obtained by luck.
Yeah. There's a quote that I like from a book, and I don't remember what it was from, but it actually might have been from a political journal and not a book. But it says, optimism is deadly, especially when combined with competence.
Yeah.
And I just, I think that's what luck is,
Yeah.
Optimism and competence, for whatever situation may come up.
That's
Anyway,
a good one.
doesn't matter.
I like it. No, I love it. Peggy says no one wants to die when they're in snowy places. Snow equals happy.
Well, let's have an emergency book club meeting tomorrow, because we're supposedly getting snow, and I'll tell you if I'm happy or not.
It'll be fun for one day to let the dogs
it's
go
gonna be
play in it.
I do like snow. I don't like it here. I want it elsewhere, and I want to go visit it. I want to go to it. I don't want it to come to me.
Yeah, and I want to be with other people who are competent in the snow.
That's
Because you still gotta go do stuff, and I can't. If it's snowing, we're not leaving the house.
Word.
But no, Peggy really does love the snow. Really love the snow.
Shelby says in all her lives she was never a bad person, and that's actually really interesting. Where's the life where I'm a mafia don? That'd been fun. I think that so what's
Would you have ever been faced with a decision that could have been made that would lead to a life of being?
Yes. Sure. Who, me personally?
Yeah.
Probably. Honestly, probably. But maybe not Italian mafia. I don't think they want me. But I'm just saying. But that actually would have been really interesting. The other interesting thing is that there were some lives. There was a few lives where she had children, but most she did not.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of a weird statement, because statistically, it should be 50-50 for all things. If with an infinite number of choices, there's an equal number of lives, an equal number of infinite lives where she has kids and where she doesn't.
Well, she wasn't randomly visiting lives.
That's true.
She was choosing certain versions of life.
Yeah.
And because who she is just probably doesn't really want kids or thinks she doesn't want kids, then that's what she ended up with.
Yeah. But ultimately, in this case, I think the idea of infinite lives is kind of meaningless, because it's really a designer life, right? You get to pick now what you want. And you know, and then she started saying like, well, what if I played around with it a little bit, right? And that this happens after her first life with Ash, where she's like, I want to go pick a different dog collar.
Right,
And
so that
like,
she could still
I
have
mean,
the
you
same
could really
life,
get
yeah.
lost in the minutia of how to play around with it to like really get it where you want it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of tragic.
That chapter punched me in the feels. I got a bit emotional.
Yeah.
I might have also been emotional because I was taking down Christmas decorations, and that always makes me sad. So I was already in a sad place. But that chapter really got me. Just because it was beautiful, and just that's the first time that she realized like how much capacity she had for love, and what it felt like to be so loved, and to be loved for who she was, you know, and there was just a lot going on in that life.
Yeah.
That changed the way she thought about things.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful.
You know, the book ends on a very positive note because she like learned all these great things, and that's awesome. But she was also traumatized on repeat, and for her to like enjoy her real life that she is in now, she needs to not forget the lessons that she learned in the Midnight Library. But that also means she probably doesn't forget the traumas. I'm not sure that realistically, if this happened to someone, they'd come out okay. If anything, you'd be like hanging out on your Arctic boat with somebody, and the girl would get a blank face for a second, and then she'd turn into a crazy person because she has seen some stuff.
Peggy says if it snowed or froze where she's at, she'd die. Everything she does is uphill. It's true.
Wow.
Oh, man. Let's see. Shelby says, in all of those lives, oh, she was never a bad person. Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting turn. In one, she was a shoplifter. They're just having fun in the chat. That's cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So all told, I think it was a good read. Unfortunately, I packed it into 2 days, and I would have liked to like spread it around a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think I was thinking about these things anyway, and I think like as I was reading the other things that I'm reading, this book kept coming to mind, and I think that this is probably something that we'll actually reference a whole lot as we go forward because we're going to see these sorts of things come up.
Yeah.
And, you know, or like so like thinking back to Fourth Wing or something. You know, Violet wishing that, you know, like, well, what if I wish I could have saved Liam.
Yeah.
Well, but if you had, like, who else would have died, right? If you had, you know, XYZ, whatever, you know, would a certain individual have bled upon a certain rock earlier, you know, go read it.
Gold star to you for referencing another book that we've read.
Thanks.
One of the big things that I took from the book is it's liberating to learn that you are the only thing holding yourself back.
Yeah. Kind of.
I mean, it's a responsibility, right? Like, once you realize that, then you have the responsibility to act and to make goals and to do the things that you want to do. Yeah. So it can be kind of, like, people avoid this acknowledgement, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say you're the only thing holding yourself back, but you are the first thing. You are the first thing.
No, I mean, we have other things going on, too, but ultimately...
Yeah.
Like, look at all the different lives she lived and all the different things that she did. And I realize this is fiction. But you can do, within reasonable limitations, whatever you want to do. Right. If you suck at math but you want to be a mathematician, go learn math.
Right.
Go figure it out. You know, like, you can do what you want to do.
Right. Well, and so, like, the way I teach this to people with, like, drug addictions and things like that, who, like, you're not going to be an astronaut because... like you got a criminal record now or whatever, right? Is you can, you know, if you have all the wood in the world, you can build any wooden house you want. You can build it however you want, but you can't make a brick house.
Right.
Because you don't have that. You've got all the wood. And so you got to figure out like, okay, well, what do I have? So how do I want to make this? And And that's kind of where Nora ends up, you know. Because, yeah, you know, you might decide that you want to start trying to do something, and then the doors are shut on you just by chance or for other reasons or whatever, and then pivot.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that that avenue is completely blocked off from you.
Right.
You can do other things. You know, if you have a criminal record, no, you can't work for NASA because that's a governmental agency. But you could probably work for Musk.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
And he's sending people to space too.
That's true. That's true.
Our dogs are just a playing in the background. Cute sounding.
Well,
anyway, do you have anything else?
No, I don't think so. This is another book that I just kind of want to like marinate on for a while.
Yeah. Peggy's checkout expired on her book, so all her highlights are gone. Dead gummy. Yeah. Oh, and just to like throw back, we couldn't remember the author of the next book that we're reading, but Shelby told us that it is Ray.
Don't worry about it.
I've
It's
lost
fine.
it again. Anyways, y'all just look in the chat.
Yeah.
Shelby will tell you.
And there will be a thing out in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we ready to move on, or are we going to say 10 more things?
I don't think I have... Hold on. I don't think I have 10 more things to say. Ooh! There was a... Every time. There was a quote that I highlighted that I liked because of what it meant in the book, but actually just because of what it meant literally. So long as there are still books on the shelves, you are never trapped. Every book is a potential escape. So obviously in the book that meant something else, but in real life, books are the window to an infinite number of other worlds and lives and experiences. And if you're ever feeling like, wow, I wish I could know what it feels to be an astronaut, but it's not within you to be an astronaut, that's okay. You could read, what was that? Andy whatever book, Andy Wire or whatever. No.
We read it for the book
club?
club?
Oh, no, we didn't read it for the book club, but it's called, golly, just like fizzled right out of my head.
How to Tame Your Astronaut.
How to Tame Your Astronaut. You can read any...
That's not what it's called.
No, I know.
Okay.
No, it's about, like, he goes to Mars and...
The Martian?
Yeah! I just have a huge brain fart. But you can read anything else, and you can take a little trip to that world.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, hold up. Let me make sure. Living with me is a test in patience. The only way to learn is to live. I wrote that one down to him. That's it.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody reading this book. And I know this is a short episode, but it was a short book. Yeah. The next book is also probably pretty short. I don't know that we've decided how to split it up yet. But,
yeah, we're about to figure it out in the next 5 minutes.
5 minutes. So anyway, come back later today and give it a look and see what we're reading for next week. And we appreciate everybody being here.
Peggy says Nicole is a Southern woman.
That's true.
With our Southern goodbyes. Oh, goodness, guys. All right.
We'll see you next time.
Happy reading.
Bye. The X switched.